Hi again, this is Mila, Mila Fournier with your COVID Victory Garden, and I'm taping episode 3 of how to start your COVID Victory Garden. So those of you who don't know me, my name is Mila Fournier, and I'm a garden educator with Cooperative Extension in Tompkins County in the Finger Lakes, New York. So the first episode we taught you about growing lettuce on your windowsill. Second episode, we talked about what you can plant in your garden now. Well, almost now. We talked about great things that you can put directly from seed into your garden beds in the month of April, just starting in about another week or two here in Zone 5. And we're going to continue talking about what you can plant in your garden that's easy and successful. And this started because there's a lot of seeds out there. I mean, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and it's overwhelming. So if you're not somebody who's done this a lot, it can be hard to figure out what to plant. So I'm here to help you filter through that. And the way we do that is with a really easy system that uses the Venn diagram. So here we go, I'll show you the Venn diagram. It's easy and love. You want it easy and you want to love it. So the best way for you to have success in your garden is to plant things that are not so hard to maintain. There are some things that are really kind of hard to grow or a little finicky, and we're going to stay away from those things. The other thing to do is pick things that you love, because there's no point in growing something if you're not going to enjoy eating it. I'm never going to grow radishes. I don't care how easy they are. I mean, they're really easy, like super gratifying to see them come out of the ground so fast. But I'm going to eat like a couple of radishes in a year, so I'm not going to grow them. But we went over in the last episode some things that you can grow right now: peas, lots of greens and roots. And now I'm going to go over what you're going to plant later in your garden. And so these are beans, zucchinis, squash, cucumbers, tomatoes, potatoes, and peppers. So I'm going to go through that so you know what to purchase when you go out to buy. Well, not that you're going out because it's COVID and we're all in quarantine. What to pick out, whether it's from a catalog or maybe a friend has something to share with you. In fact, a note about sharing. Have you ever opened up a packet of seeds to see what's on the inside? Yeah, let me find one for you. Here, that's one that's opened. I've only used a couple of seeds from this. So this is a packet of tomato seeds. I usually don't try to rip the package that badly, but sometimes it happens because then it's hard to know what it is. But here we go. Okay, it's hard to see in my hand, but in my hand, actually now spilled onto the table, and I'll show you. It's a whole lot of tomato seeds. And you're like, it's not so much, right? Well, if you look carefully, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That little pile is 10 seeds. And we probably have 4 or 5 piles that are that size. So you're looking at like 50 tomato plants growing out of that seed packet. You're like, 50 tomato plants? Well, how many does a family need? I can tomatoes in the fall because I want to be able to have salsa and have sauce and stuff like that over the winter. And I have planned 18 Roma tomato plants for my family for this summer. So 50 tomato plants is probably more than any one person needs unless you're, growing them for market. Each tomato plant, if you're growing intensively, will take up at least a square foot of space, maybe a little more than a square foot of space in the garden. And that would mean 50 square feet of tomatoes. That's like one row 50 feet long. That's more than you can possibly imagine. So if you want to get seeds, ask your community. There's lots of listservs and things like Facebook groups that will have groups that would be willing to share. So I share my seeds all the time because there's no way I need that many tomatoes in any one season. So that's a side note about quantities of seeds. There's no such thing as someone using up an entire packet of seeds in a year unless you're a really serious gardener. If you're that serious a gardener, you probably don't need to watch this video. So let me talk about the things that are really easy to grow. And this is going to be starting after your last frost. In zone 5, our last frost is somewhere around May 15th. That means that these plants need to go out there after it's warm enough. So I'm going to start with beans. Beans are really prolific. They just grow, 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 grow. And these are green beans. We're not going to talk about shelling beans. We're not going to talk about dry beans. We're going to talk about green beans, the kind that you get, frozen in a package, or maybe you get them in a can. So this is a way for you to grow your own. Beans are super easy, super prolific. As long as they're in the ground after the cold is over, they'll grow, and they'll grow fast. What's nice about these two is that if you grow pole beans, they need a support structure. So one of the recommended things we had for spring was growing peas, which also needs some sort of structure for growing. So when your peas are done, put in your beans right on the same structure. It'd be easy to do. Now, the thing you need to know about beans is they come in basically 3 varieties. There's pole beans, bush beans, and then, well, there's the dry beans. We're not going to get into those. And those can be either bush or pole. But we're going to talk about pole beans and bush beans. Pole beans have to grow up a structure. Bush beans basically grow to about 2-3 feet tall, maybe. And they will hold the beans underneath a canopy of leaves. Now, the thing about pole and bush, because the pole bean has to grow up to a certain height before it really starts producing, it might take a little longer to start getting beans off of a pole bean. Bush beans tend to start growing really quickly, and you'll get to harvest that really fast. So one nice idea to keep in mind when you're picking out seeds is, when can you pick this stuff? So your back of your packet usually has information like days to harvest. This is 66 days to harvest. This one's 85. This one says 75 on the back there. So you just check your seed packet for information. All the best seed companies will give you that information. If they're not giving you that information, I would say maybe pick a different company that really is going to give you all the information you need. So what will happen is this: bush beans will come up a little faster, and then pole beans come up after that. So I usually try to plant one of each, so that I have bush beans that I can pick earlier, and then pole beans that I can pick a little later, so that you've got plenty of produce all summer. Another thing that is incredibly easy to grow: zucchini, summer squash. These things will grow like crazy, but they need really good pollination. It means that your bees in your neighborhood have to be very active for them to grow. Otherwise, you get these kind of weird shaped zucchini. Instead of being these kind of even shaped, they look kind of like like a short wine bottle. So it looks like a regular zucchini, but then it kind of gets really narrow at one end. That means that it's not well pollinated, because we've all heard the story about how, well, a pollinator visits the plant, then it goes visits the other plant, and it moves the pollen from one to the other. Well, most of our plants need more than one visit for full pollination. They need to be visited a few times. So whenever I plant things like squash, or frankly anything, I want to make sure that I'm also supporting the pollinators in the area. So I try to plant other things to go along with it that I know the pollinators will love. And in another video, we'll get into those kinds of flowers. But squash and zucchini are really, really, really hard to do wrong. They will grow and grow and grow, and often what I'll do is I'll plant, and then 2 weeks later I'll plant again, so that I have staggered harvest over the course of the summer. In fact, you can put zucchini into the ground as a seed as late as early July and still get stuff by the end of the summer. So next up, cucumbers. Again, super easy to grow. Also usually vining, occasionally bush. So this is a bush type, which means it's going to be shorter, stouter, it won't take up as much room, and it'll probably actually grow faster and start producing faster than a vining type. So let's see, how many days is this? Where's my date? Dates to harvest, 45 to 50 days. That's incredibly fast. That means in like, if I plant these out on May 15th, by August 1st, I'm eating cucumbers. Absolutely. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to put these as seed out on that day. I'm actually going to start growing these inside in a little pot a couple weeks ahead of time, and then I'll put them out as starts. In fact, that days to harvest number usually means from starts, not from seed. Cucumbers are super easy. They usually come in a couple different varieties, groupings. One is the pickling variety and one is the slicing variety. So if you want them for your salad, get a salad cucumber or a slicing cucumber. If you want to make pickles, which is a great idea to keep your harvest all through the winter, get a pickling type. The one's going to be bred to taste better for their application. So a pickling cucumber is not going to be as tasty in your salad, and a salad cucumber is going to be kind of mushy as a pickle. Next up, winter squash. So again, same family as that summer squash, the zucchinis, but these are the ones that are going to have a longer time before you can harvest them, which is great because these are actually meant to be grown and kept into the fall and into the winter. So they do take up quite a bit of room, but they're pretty easy to grow and pretty reliable to grow, and you will end up having a great harvest that you can keep through the fall and winter. Next up, super popular peppers. Now, here's the thing. This looks like that one of those lovely big bell peppers that you get at the grocery store. It's not though. See, oh, where's our camera? Right there. See that little tiny symbol? It looks like a pot. It says 12 inches. This is a miniature plant. This is a 12-inch dwarf plant that makes kind of smallish, like snack size, yellow sweet peppers, which is great because peppers usually like a lot of heat. They like a long season, and a small plant is going to produce faster. This is 75 days. Oh, there we go. 75 days to harvest from setting out plants on May 15th. A small plant doesn't take up as much room. It will grow and grow and grow and start making peppers for you really fast. This is another kind of pepper, Mountaineer. Since I know that peppers often take a long time and can sometimes be a little finicky about how much heat they get because they really do like it hot, I look for something that indicates that it's going to be a short season pepper, or maybe something that's acclimated to a cold climate. So Mountaineer, just the name itself, I think of mountains and high elevations and colder weather. And true to form, this is a small red pepper that's super early. It says so right there, super early. 53 days to eating a green pepper and 68 days to get that nice red sweet pepper. So a cool thing about this, and when you're looking for seeds, is look for your smaller local companies. This is a company, Fruition Seeds, that's here in upstate New York. So I know that the things that they grow and the seeds that they pack are really well acclimated for this area. Next up, probably the most popular thing to grow, tomatoes. I think I may have to do an entire episode just about tomatoes. There are so many kinds. There are these like gorgeous, gigantic, big heirloom, what they call beefsteak tomatoes. There are these cool, smaller, dark ones. This one that I had ripped open is a little smaller, small slicing tomato, but it's super early. You've got, Wisconsin 55, Roma tomatoes, which are great for paste. The Arkansas Traveler, this Oxheart red type, and of course things like cherry tomatoes, currant tomatoes, little ones. I kind of love them all. But what I would suggest to make things easy on you is pick an early tomato and a late tomato. You can see we all got to learn how to read these packets. This is 80 days for this Wisconsin 55. This one is 80 days as well. This one is also 80 days. Boy, a lot of 80 days. These Roma tomatoes are 78 days, so not quite 80 days. 65 days for this paste tomato. So what I would probably do, if I wanted to do a lot of paste, I would get a 65-day tomato and maybe an 80-day tomato or an 85-day tomato so that I've got both ends of the season covered. The other thing about that too is there's all sorts of different diseases that tomatoes can get, wilts and stuff like that. And if you get an early tomato, you might get a harvest before that wilt sets in, because a lot of our tomato diseases are actually really seasonal. So what you can do is pick out a couple, one that will go early, one that will go later. I am a bit of a tomato addict, so as you can see, this is not even all my tomatoes, this is just some of them. So I'll grow some hybrids that are really reliable for early, quick production. They tend to be a little smaller, but I'll also grow these like giant, meaty beefsteak tomatoes, or something like this pineapple heirloom beefsteak tomato, which is this really cool, giant, kind of orangey looking one. I'll also grow lots of currant tomatoes with really tiny, like really super, super small grape tomatoes or cherry tomatoes, because I like to snack while I'm out in the garden, and why not snack on something that you're growing? So because I love them, I'll put in more of them. But again, I'll share these packets with my friends. I'll share them with my colleagues, my coworkers, because I don't need 50 of any one kind, because I'm going to grow probably 4 or 6 different kinds of tomatoes. I really only need a couple of each plant. So there's that. So those are kind of like your greatest hits of summertime. Another thing I had on that list, but I'm not showing you right now, is potatoes. Potatoes are incredibly easy to grow and really satisfying to grow. And we'll have to do a different episode with potatoes once I actually get the potatoes that I ordered and they come in. So I'll show you those later. And just because, here, I'll show you that list again. Just because it said that things like peas and greens and roots were early spring doesn't mean you can't plant some of those in the summer as well. So what I'll often do is I'll do multiple plantings of some of these, like if you like radishes, you can plant them over and over again. Beets, I'll do a later planting of them as well, because I do like them and I want to grow them all the time. So I'll grow an early season crop and then I'll grow a slightly later crop. Spinach doesn't do so great in the heat. It's kind of a cool weather loving spinach plant, so I will wait until almost the fall to put some of those in, so I get some baby spinach in like September. But chard will grow all year. Kale, you can do succession plantings all summer long, so you can have winter kale too. Lettuces, a lot of lettuces will do well until it gets to be really, really hot. Cabbages will do fine, and chard will grow anywhere. In fact, I think I actually have chard there twice. That's because it grows so quickly and so easily in most of our gardens. So, go out, pick out some seeds, enjoy your gardens, and feel free to ask any questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question, because I didn't know any of this stuff when I first started either. I just had to do it over and over again and ask lots and lots of questions, read lots of books, watch lots of videos until I got to learn. So, happy gardening.